the microphone, but it's
what?
It makes our pictures right. What?
What?
It makes our pictures look so official.
Yes.
Even though you can't see that there's no head on the microphone, but only I can see that.
There's a head on his beer over here.
There you go. Very good joke.
Yes.
So I hope everybody is aware that obviously the beers, the drinks, the snacks, the pasta that Michael Higgs so graciously, with love, slaved in the kitchen for the last 5 hours with homemade sauce, which the ingredients were sourced from Italy, like this morning, on Donald Trump's jet, and
salt and tomatoes for $1, man.
yes.
And Oprah was the co-pilot.
Oprah was there, Obama was there, champagne toast.
And so was Jeb, right?
But they just flew out. And anyways, you guys are all awesome for being here. There was a few of us who were at the LPF convention last week, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, up in Newport Richey, basically Tampa, where they had the convention last year. But it was a good time for those of us who were there. We certainly enjoyed Gary Johnson. Did the dinner banquet. Ben Swan, awesome independent journalist who started with a local Fox affiliate. If you're not paying attention, Ben Swan is doing a lot of really cool journalism independently. It's called Truth in Media is his thing. And you can find him on Facebook. You can find him on the interwebs.
We're on NBC6 in Atlanta now.
He's on NBC6 Atlanta.
CBS.
CBS, he's out there. Ben Swan is all you really need to know. Ben Swan. And Adam Kokesh was freaking awesome. Some of us saw him around the state in the last couple weeks. He was in Fort Lauderdale randomly last week, and then he was at the convention. And Adam Kokesh has a book called Freedom, which I'll have a couple copies next month if you guys are interested. We have, obviously, a guest speaker, a featured speaker for a very hot topic that we're going to get into, which I know we're all kind of wondering what the deal is with that. But before we introduce him, I'd like to introduce our chair of the Broward Libertarian Party, Mr. Bill White. Bill?
Thank you. Thanks, Alex. Our guest speaker tonight will actually be talking about the body cameras that police are wearing, which is a very controversial subject, obviously. The fact that there's a camera pointed at you whenever you walk down the street, or or questioned by a police officer can be kind of creepy and Orwellian in nature. So, Mark is going to actually go over that, and his our guest speaker. A couple of things. We had Roger Stone here last meeting. It was a really great meeting. We had a lot of interaction, and a lot of people have been looking at us. So we need to kind of build on that momentum. We're also going to be installing a couple of apps on our Facebook page as well as our website, which would give greater ease to people who want to register as a libertarian. Because I know a lot of people are interested in what we have to offer, but it's a situation of, okay, well, what do I do? And then somewhat the message gets lost. So what we're going to do is we're going to grow the party. We're taking the first steps to do that with making these apps and utilizing technology and all that it has to offer. We've been building a lot of money since we got off to a rocky start this year. Our treasury has been building. We have, we're getting money into the treasury. My ultimate goal is to have a really nice event with Jordan Page. And so in order to do that, we would ask you to kind of help us out. We're a few $100s shy of that. Every little bit helps. But if we can have an awesome Liberty performer, he actually performed for Ron Paul's campaign. If we can have somebody here that has recognition on a national level, then it's just only going to get better. Also, after our guest speaker, I would like to ask you if you could just hang on for a minute. We have a raffle that's going on, which all the proceeds are going to go towards our treasury, towards building the party. I would ask that you stick around, get to know people, and also you know that there's a prize. We have some merchandise that's in the back there. That's all things libertarian. So without further ado, I'd like to turn the floor over to our guest speaker for this week, Mr. Mark Eckert. Mark, he's going to talk about police cameras, and let's give it up for him. Mark.
Thank you, everyone. Not sure how ready I was for this. I'm on the board of directors with the ACLU of Florida Broward chapter, and we had our meeting Monday. Did anybody watch that streaming live? So a lot of it I'll be regurgitating what I learned. But it's a very interesting topic, and initially when I first heard about it, it's kind of crazy. You see about all the police corruption, and you want to know the truth, and everybody goes, "Oh, if there were cameras, we would all know the truth." And that's what everybody wants, really, is to know the truth. But tonight I'm speaking on behalf of the ACLU of Florida, and I had found an article that was written actually in October 2013. But it pretty succinctly states what the ACLU position is on police cameras. And I wanted to read this real quick. When a New York judge found that the NYPD stop and frisk tactics violated the constitutional rights of New Yorkers, one of the remedies she ordered was for the department to begin testing wearable police cameras, sparking debate and discussion of the technology there. These on-officer recording systems, also called body cams and cop cams, are small pager-sized cameras that clip onto the uniform. We have heard reports of police body cameras being deployed in numerous cities, and one prominent manufacturer told NBC that it sold them to hundreds of departments. The ACLU has commented on police body cameras in the media several times over the years and in stories surrounding the stop and frisk ruling, but the ACLU's views on this technology are a little more complicated than can be conveyed through quotes in a news story. Although we generally take a dim view of the proliferation of surveillance cameras in American life, police on body cameras are different because their potential to serve as a check against the abuse of power by police officers. Historically, there was no documentary evidence of most encounters between police officers and the public. And due to the volatile nature of those encounters, this often resulted in radically divergent accounts of incidents. Cameras have the potential to be a win-win, helping protect the public against police misconduct, and at the same time helping protect police against false accusations of abuse. We're against pervasive government surveillance, but when cameras primarily serve this function of allowing public monitoring of the government instead of the other way around, we generally regard that as a good thing. While we have opposed government video surveillance of the public places, for example, we have supported the installation of video cameras on police car dashboards, in prisons, and during interrogations. At the same time, body cameras have more of a potential to invade privacy than those deployments. Police officers enter people's homes and encounter bystanders, suspects, and victims in a wide variety of sometimes stressful and extreme situations. For the ACLU, the challenge of an on-officer cameras and the tension between their potential to invade privacy and their strong benefit in promoting police accountability. Overall, we think they can be a win-win, but only if they're deployed with a framework of strong policies to ensure they protect the public. And then it goes on and on. So what I learned Monday was that the issue is a lot more complicated than I even had initially thought. I never thought, oh, are we going to have public access to watching cops go into bathrooms, or whatever. And then there's all kinds of issues that come up. Who has control of the recording? Does the officer, or does he have no control? If he has no control, then you're going to have video of him on his breaks, talking to his buddies, all kinds of times that probably he should have an expectation of privacy. Yes.
I was reading about, I don't know the specific situation, but I was reading about how there was an officer shooting where he shot a suspect, and he turned his body camera off. So if you give them the option to turn it off when they're on duty, I think it kind of negates the whole, the whole process because you're basically going to get just like, bits and pieces of information.
Right, and I think the ACLU is leaning in that direction too, that they shouldn't have control. But then what you end up with is, because they can deliver the cameras for the policemen to wear with buttons to turn it on and off, or without the option to turn it on and off. And the ones that don't have a button, when they end their shift, they take it off at the police station and set it in a docking system, and it takes all those videos from the day and puts it up on the cloud or on a server. So now, Michelle Richardson from the ACLU of Florida, she pretty much was at our event on Monday, was saying kind of pretty much what I told you. But she had added a few more things. Chris Smith had a bill recently for police cameras, and it passed 36-2, but it went through dozens and dozens of amendments. I heard it was a mess. And basically,
Is that a Democrat?
Yes, he is. I think he's a Democrat out of Orlando or south of Orlando, somewhere in that area. But what we end up having is police wear body cams, but there is nobody can get public records. So it's like they're in total charge of whether anybody can get the video or not. And so that's where the ACLU has an issue with the law that was passed. It does not. It leaves too much in favor of law enforcement and not enough for public accountability and for other people to be able to get it. So that's what Ms. Richardson was basically saying, that the reason why they opposed Chris Smith's bill. Then Ron Gunsberger spoke. He's the legal counsel for the Broward Sheriff's Office, Scott Israel. And he spoke at several of our events now. And I must say, for legal counsel for a sheriff, we're pretty lucky with him, and Israel actually, because they're more civil liberty minded than I've ever seen in this county since I've lived here since '78. And so Mr. Gunsberger has said that Scott Israel is totally in favor of police cameras, and so is he, the legal counsel himself. Where they run into problems is two issues. One is money, and cameras are not that expensive. When you're talking about a budget, where the costs really come into are how you're going to store it, who's going to operate it, who's going to do the public records, who's going to blur out faces, who's going to maintain it. And they're estimating just for their pilot program where they're going to need 7 to 9 people just to do public records for video. And so,
How about they fire 7 to 9 cops, which they easily can do, right?
sell their MRAP.
There's your budget.
Yeah. Are those 7 to 9 people? Are they like employed by the police department or?
That's another issue that Mr. Gunsberger is talking about, whether or not they would be internal employees or if it would be outsourced. And they haven't determined. They're trying to. What Broward County is doing right now, Broward County Sheriff's, is working on starting a pilot program. Actually, they've already got like 20 officers out there wearing cameras now. And they expect all of the BSO to be wearing them by November. And it's basically going to be a pilot program. They're trying to get their policies in order, the data storage, how they're going to do it, where they're going to get the money. Is the money going to keep coming, or are they going to run out next year? So they have a lot of issues to work out. But the sheriff and the legal counsel are definitely in favor of it. They also had another speaker there, Dean Trentalis, who's a city commissioner for Fort Lauderdale. He's also in favor of it. Back to Gunsberger. He said that the county commission was in favor of it 7-2. There were 7 commissioners favored it, and 2 that were like, I don't know. You're making a big deal out of nothing or something. So on the county level, that's where that stands. On the city of Fort Lauderdale, Dean Trentalis, I think that's how you say his name, he indicated that he was for the police body cameras, but he wasn't. He was like iffy on the other members. I think it's like 50-50, and he's not really sure.
No, he said that they're not in favor of it. He said the mayor's not in favor of it.
The mayor's not. Then he said there's a couple others that might have been leaning. I don't know.
It was mostly the county, but they said the city of Fort Lauderdale was dang it.
Mayor Jack Seiler? Is that the guy? Mayor Jack
Yeah.
Seiler? He's not in favor of it? What a
Yeah.
douchebag, this guy. How many things has he
Surprise.
read? I'm sorry. Did I say that?
He wants to arrest us for feeding the
The
homeless.
police union is in his back pocket, dude. The union is not. Come on. It don't make sense.
So the other huge issue we have in this county, as far as this issue, is the police officers. Some police officers want them and some don't. But they all belong to a police union, and the police unions are against it, and strongly.
Why?
And the police union.
Of course they are.
Because
yeah.
I
Police union have a lot of
can't meet
mayors.
people without you watching me.
Yeah, the police.
Why would I want that?
The police union has a lot of mayors in their back pocket.
So, Mark, why do you think the unions are against it?
Obvious.
Because then they might be accountable. they're the ones that deal with the contracts, and they're going to lose stuff if all their cops are bad. They're going to not going to be able to go to contract negotiations, which is with as much money. There's all kinds of insurance. I think there's all kinds of things why they would be against it. I think in a lot of it, what Mr. Gunsberger was saying is that a lot of it is just the fear of change. A lot of people don't want to change. It's a pretty big move, and that always causes people fear. It's anytime you try to do something new, everybody wants to back away from it. But he thinks that once it's in place and it's going, that everybody's going to be fine with it. Mr. Gunsberger was also saying that one of the main reasons why he's in favor of them is because he believes he's going to be able to convict more people.
Wow.
So it works both ways.
What a douchebag.
It really does, though.
There's
If
another
you're really
douchebag.
guilty of something, you would be like for that, right?
I guess he's saying that all the time that they have people trying to resist arrest, and because that's why they say stop resisting, right? So he says the videos would prove that they were resisting, so the charge would stand when it normally wouldn't in court.
What's always interesting is what's the first charge that they were being arrested for? Oftentimes these resisting arrest charges don't even have another charge other than resisting arrest. So what was he getting arrested for in the first place?
How
That's
can
the
you
question.
resist arrest if you weren't being arrested to begin
He
with?
smelled pot. It could be. Bruce?
Yeah, now in Broward County, we have different kinds of police, county police and various municipalities have their own police forces. Is this proposal for all the police forces or only BSO police?
Only BSO.
Only BSO.
But the sheriff, BSO, is in favor of it, right? So doesn't he make the final call? Who does?
No.
First, the union has to agree.
Why?
Because the sheriff really isn't the boss of the cops. The union is, because they're saying it violates their contract. To make a police officer wear a camera is in violation of their contract.
Was there a
When they're contracted as police officers, they're told, you have to dress like this every day. and now you're adding something that they have to dress with, and that violates your
That's
contract.
an excuse, then,
Does that mean every uniform change has to go through the union to be able to change?
It probably
the
does.
uniform?
I'll bet their uniforms do go through.
Yeah, just to let everyone know that the BSO and the police officers, when it comes to the grievances and so forth, they go under PERC, which stands for Public Employees Resource Relations Commission. So best thing to do is go to the PERC website. What he's right about cameras, it is considered negotiable as part of the uniform code. Then the union, which is a BSO union, has to approve it or not.
Right, and Mr. Gunn, they're actually in negotiations right now with the unions trying to work this out. So it looks like the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to go to court over whether or not wearing cameras is negotiable. That's the first court case, and whether the judge comes back and says it is or it isn't determines how the sheriff goes further. Yes?
For those who don't know, how is this any different than a police officer's dashboard camera?
Oh, there's lots of situations where police are involved that aren't in front of their car. SWAT teams. The camera bills that are usually proposed are mostly for uniformed officers. They're not for detectives. They're not for undercovers. They're not for plainclothes. They're only for uniformed police officers. And so there's lots of situations where a policeman might be called to a domestic violence at a house. And they will go in the house if they think there's a danger in there. And if their camera's on, now you have the interior of someone's house. And is this going to be available for public record? Is the big thing.
Well, even if it's not part of public record, just because, somebody has a camera recording somebody's, personal effects under the Fourth Amendment, you can see how easily this becomes convoluted because, even if it just gets stored and 1-2 people look at it, that could be construed as a violation of, somebody's...
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, and then the ACLU believes that the video should be taken and it should be stored in case there is a problem that needs to be reviewed, but it wouldn't necessarily be readily available to anybody for public.
Would that information, let's say they're responding to a domestic violence dispute and they find something that's illegal that has nothing to do with that, would that information be later used to obtain a search?
See, those are all good points.
I mean, you know what I mean? It's just, it opens up this can of worms, if you will.
A lot of times we think that the cameras are going to protect us. They're there for us. But also, what if, they take this video back and they saw a shotgun in the corner? Or a bag of weed or something.
Yeah, that's what I was, thinking.
That's what you were thinking, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking shotgun, you were thinking weed.
Libertarian.
How can you determine from that video what was in that bag?
Yeah, the cameras have sniffers. That's next.
It looks like weed.
Right. And,
So what you're saying is we should all get body cams and wear them every day.
well, you know what?
There you go.
I was kind of going to play the devil advocates because I was a little disappointed at the debate we had Monday because there was nobody there against the police wearing cameras. And I wish I had known that before the event, or I might have been the one, because I think it's important. And I'm probably not so much spewing the ACLU line here.
All right, we'll edit this part out of the video.
When you think about it, so we have a problem. I mean, think about the situation. We have a problem with the police. They're killing people. And now we want government to fix the problem. With what? More government. Let's make police budgets bigger with cameras and data. Let's give them more information so they can record everything we do, whether it's in front of a police car or not. Now they can come in our house. Not only, now they know what the interiors of everybody's house is because they've been in every house at least once every 10 years. I mean, data is unbelievable.
Right.
And this is a huge, huge thing. And as far as I'm concerned, facial recognition software can easily be put on any camera or through any software that has a certain amount of resolutions. This could get out of control is the way I look
I mean, I
sometimes.
hate to say it as well, but I mean, look how media is constantly manipulated. How can we even trust that these recordings? I mean, cops seem to have legal privileges all the time anyway. Who's to say it'll be manipulated when used in court of law?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. But government's done such a good job of being accountable. Why we're going to believe they're going to be accountable because they have a camera? I mean, so it's you can get.
What you were saying about actually biometrics is they actually did that in Missouri with Ferguson.
Mm-hmm.
They equipped the police officers with it was referred to as $1 million toys. That the cameras are biometric sensitive. So that brings up another issue is that you're in somebody's house for a domestic dispute, and never mind the shotgun or the weed or whatever, but this guy has outstanding parking tickets or violation of probation. How do you proceed from that?
And if you think of how far, I'll get with you just one second. If you think about how far we've gone in technology just in the last 10 years, just imagine where we're going in 10 more years. And when you give them this data, now if you think it's going to stay there, you're crazy. The FBI is going to get a copy, Homeland Security is going to get a copy. They got supercomputers that will blow your mind. I mean, they can keep track of billions and billions and trillions of things all at the same time.
Well, that's something that's something that Homeland Security and the FBI has been doing with some local police forces.
So that was my libertarian hat on, by the way.
Yeah. Some of them have been, the Department of Homeland Security has been forwarding leads to like local, county or city municipality, police departments. And you need,
right.
Yeah.
But it seems like most of the police agencies are going to be left to put in their own procedures when it comes to wearing cameras. And so the ACLU does recommend that the public, anybody interested, to get involved when they have hearings or they're having procedures, to ask to be involved to ensure that there's protections put in place. I mean, when they're putting together procedure manuals, we could say this can't go nowhere else. It has to be deleted in 30 days. You can put safeguards in like that. Gentleman back here had a question. Oh, okay. Yes.
Well, I was going to say also, there's another thing to keep in mind is that even with those states and counties that do have body cameras, it doesn't even really mean that it's going to protect you anyways. We've been seeing cases over and over again where even the police cameras are being used and the officer gets off totally free. Like it's like, oh, it looked like they were showing force, and that's all the sheriff, the main sheriff has to say, and then that's it. End of story. Internal investigations will look into it, and it disappears.
Right.
Like it just doesn't. It doesn't mean that having these cameras all of a sudden going to protect you either.
We've investigated ourselves and found that we did nothing wrong.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So the ACLU is for it.
On this issue,
Mm-hmm.
I think that a potential way to address it, I don't know if ACLU, the Libertarian Party, or who might take up this idea, if anyone's interested in this idea, but we had militia as an independent thing separate from government. If the same concept were applied to have some sort of citizen review mechanism that these things, don't go to the police, it doesn't go to Homeland Security or whatever, it goes to some select group of persons that are considered to be looking out for the public interest, like a public defender type of concept, something like that. So now it's not just the police that get to make a call on it, but there's somebody on the other side.
And you think the union or
Right, and that's a good idea. And as these police agencies are making their procedures, it would be good for the public to go to them and say, hey, we want this to go through the review board, and And some cities or counties have review boards and some don't. Omar?
Mark, a couple of things because you're just kind of jumping around, and I get it, you weren't prepared, because I was listening to it, and there was a guy that streamed it, and I was listening to it in the background of my computer. So everybody asked a couple of questions, and we just kind of bounced around. Funding, and who's the one that says the final things. They had said specifically that the county isn't necessarily in charge of this. They said that the county will kind of vote up or down for some kind of funding, but that what you were saying, it's a police union and the contract. So you're right on that. That's how it's weird the way it works as to who's going to be in charge and get the final say of it. But I think Gunsberger was saying that in the first year or the second year, after some initial funding comes in, then they'll get money from the federal government. And that money will sort of be used because they're saying that we have our budget, and something about they're in charge of their own budget. That's very strange. And they said, listen, we have to keep up with the rising cost of healthcare and living and blah, blah, blah. So then you throw on the cameras. So that adds to our budget. Where does the extra funds come from? If our budget goes up 20%, do we go down 20%? Actually, kind of what you were saying, Alex. Hey, we got to hire 79 people. Why don't we fire 79 people? Well, he didn't actually say that. But I was thinking that. I was like, you could just subtract and through addition, you'd make it work. But
yeah,
that's not government philosophy, obviously.
Yeah, the county approves a budget for the sheriff, and then the sheriff a total number, and then the sheriff can spend that the way he wants.
Yeah, basically. So that basically goes like that. Now, he was also talking about, Amy asked about cameras on dash. I actually give Gunsberger a little bit of credit here, because usually he's just saying shit, and it's stupid. It's just, I can't believe some of the stuff he says sometimes. So you're saying you like him, I don't like the guy. But he made a good point. He said, the cameras on the dash was a big debate, and it happened, and all of a sudden it was like, and now it was, nothing came from it. He said that, like what you were saying, change is scary, but once they did it, it was accepted, and now it's like standard protocol. Like it's, if a cop car doesn't have a dash camera, they don't use it or something like that. They said that. So he was saying that once the body cameras would be on, if they actually go through with it, then it would be like anything else, and they would tweak all the little things to make it work. So they're saying it would generally be accepted, which is, I guess I sort of agree with them on that. Like once you do it, then it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Another thing that we didn't mention, but someone mentioned before about the state of Florida. The state of Florida is a two-way permission state. Like you can't record somebody without their permission. That's another issue that they're running into with legalities. They're saying that if you come to somebody's house, you have to ask them permission. Hey, I have a body camera before you come in. So they have to say, oh no, I don't want the camera on. Here we go again with the they can turn the camera off right then and there, so they turn the camera off because of privacy issues. So that's an issue as well with standing laws in the state of Florida, that Florida's a two-way system. I think that's in the Constitution, actually. I'm not sure, but it's I know it's
audible.
That just applies to cameras, because you can record phone conversations if one person gives consent.
Not in Florida. Florida is two-party.
Two-party?
It's a two-party.
Well, they must have changed it, because it used to be that way. I know when narcotics officers when they try to put up a sting or whatever, they can get one person to
That's
just...
a special warrant. They have to get there's a whole separate process in our Constitution that defines that.
Yes. And then the last thing I want to touch on is that they were talking about what kind of cameras they were going to use, because there's one camera they said that was really cool but really expensive. I forget who's using it. They said somebody is using it, I think in Florida they said. I forget who. Now I'm trying to remember the details. If you remember, this is sort of like towards the end of the conversation about some special camera that they use that does something, and it charges, and I think it uploads, or I'm not sure how exactly it works, but they said the taser maker. Yeah, they said the taser maker has a camera. They make a camera that actually goes on a taser, but they also make some kind of a special camera as well that does something really...
Now they have a taser that has a camera.
Yeah. But they were talking about what kind of camera to use. They were saying, all the camera companies are going to be lining up to talk to the police to get this contract to make money, and something else like that. Oh, and storage as well. Storage is a big thing. They could use the cloud. They could use server racks. How they could do it, and they were thinking that the cloud could be compromised, so that anybody could gain access if it's wireless. they brought up a lot of interesting stuff that makes you think maybe this isn't a good idea.
Yeah, that's true, and they were trying to sell it at the same time.
Yes. That's why.
But
That's why.
the train of thought is,
There was no debate. It was no debate. It was just a conversation.
yeah, it was basically a conversation. But the train of thought is, I guess a while back, one police station or police department in California had put them all on, and police corruption went down like 50% or something. And so the train of thought is that if they're on camera and you're on camera and everybody's on camera, everybody's going to be more well behaved. However, there was another police department that was forced to wear them, I think in New Mexico or something, and they didn't behave. The camera didn't change their behavior. So I guess it just depends. They probably aren't going to get in trouble for acting bad. That's probably why. And the ones in California will probably get in trouble. But so I do think it would have an effect in that way. If people know they're on camera, they act differently.
Yes.
Whether it's the police or the public. But
what is the law for filming the cops? Is that, I've seen both ways where it's okay and then
in Florida, it's pretty much it's okay, but you cannot be interfering with the duties of the police. But if you're interfering in any way, whether you're running your mouth, whether you're too close, then you're going to go to jail.
and do they determine how close you are? If you're,
Yeah, they do actually.
So they push you over across the street. Or
Yeah, they got a tape measure. You can kind of challenge that, but at the same time, you don't want to go to jail for it. And sooner or later, somebody's going to go to jail for it, and it'll be a good thing because then a court will say you can't make them go more than 10 feet or something.
Sooner or later, I've seen it happen on YouTube like all the time.
Yeah, the courts will never hear it. Any other questions?
Yeah, how would they, we mentioned, going into somebody's house for like domestic disputes.
Hmm?
How are they, with body cameras in place, how do they expect to honor and defend the Constitution of the United States with the Fourth Amendment, the right to be secure, your person's possessions? How do you weigh they've already done it with, if you're out in public, there's cameras here, there's, the real ID is the biometric facial. They don't tell people this. How do they draw the line between protecting?
Or what Omar was saying. What they're going to have to do is, if they come up to a house and there's a domestic dispute, say, and they want to go in, they have to ask if they can come in with the camera on. If the owner gives them permission, there's no problem. And if they're told no, then they have to turn the camera off before they go in. So that's another case of allowing police officers to have an on-off switch so that they can turn it off, not to violate someone's privacy. But there was a lot of discussion on public records also about who has access to what. If the police come into your house with a camera, you have access to that video anytime you want. You have the public right to your own video that they took of you. But you don't have the right to your neighbor's video.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of details and just all kinds of crazy scenarios that you could get into when you're thinking about that, trying to determine who has access to the public records and who doesn't. I mean, it can get crazy.
Well, it brings a point of who watches the watchman, literally, because they're the ones that are supposed to be,
Right.
peace officers maintaining, law and order. But I think some of the pushback or the resistance to it might stem from police in general not being very, well clued in as to what people's rights are, or if somebody comes up to a police officer, hey, can I are your backyard shooting ranges, or can I just do target practice in my backyard, or or can I do this, or, well, can I, if I'm on my property, can I, like, do I have to cover my weapon, or can I mean, it brings up these things where they're not, like, trained. It might bring up, like, things where, like, like one police officer will say yes, and then another police officer will say no. So I think that also would poke holes in the, their training, or make them basically look stupid.
Right.
And they don't, as long as they have control of the data, then, that they're fine with that. But at the same time, it's like, where does this data go? Who's going to look at it, and what's it going to be used for in the future?
Right.
Because you could very easily use facial recognition software to find, this person, we didn't know this person was staying at this person's house, but guess what? They violated their probation. So what do we do now? Do we ignore this information, or do we kind of just hang out at that, and then catch the person? I mean, since it is the county that's the one that is, going to catch people for violating.
You all should have been at that meeting.
Can I say something? I think that these issues have already been answered by the courts in numerous court cases. Whether a cop had cameras or not, if they go into some place and they have reason to believe that that person has a warrant, or even later realize it, I mean, they really can use that knowledge. I mean, and if you have drugs or something laying there within view, court cases have already established that, well, yeah, the cop can arrest you, even though they didn't come there for that, because those have already been decided. Now, I think I received an email today or yesterday that actually brought up that this information would be exempt from public records for now. It doesn't mean that they won't tweak it and change it for later, but I think by exempting it alleviates the problems that everyone's concerned with, and it allows the BSO, whoever, to do their pilot project to see what direction it should go.
Right, and I agree with you on a lot of what you were saying, especially some of the laws that cover some of these issues already exist. But it still does bring up some new issues. But
Well, plain view in a car is one thing. That's on the street.
right.
But in your house, you certainly have an expectation of privacy.
Right, and like I was saying, you can say, no, I don't want you in my house with a camera on.
I don't know, if you call the cops and someone said there's an emergency and the cop needs to go in there, well, to me, you're giving them permission to do what they need.
What if somebody else calls on a neighbor? It says, I think there's something going on in that neighbor's house. Does that all of a sudden allow them to be able to film inside that house when they go inside? Because a neighbor called?
No, it doesn't allow them, but I think, weren't you saying that they're going to go in anyways
If they
with
have
the cameras
reason to-
on if you called for an emergency without realizing this is going to be recorded, and they come, and now they're like, oh, well, we have proof in this camera that you had this gun, or you had these drugs, or you had, something that they're suspicious of, and now they can arrest you for that, even though they weren't originally, didn't have a warrant to come in,
The court has
and
already
etc.
decided. The court's already
I
decided.
mean, personally, I'm not for the body cams, but regardless of what you think, I think that we should definitely be exhausting more energy towards just really trying to inspire people to make personal recordings with their own phone and to be involved and to know their rights, etc., and be really informed and not rely on the cops having body cameras to really make much of a difference. Government fixing more government problems and all of the ways in which they can use this as their own incriminating evidence, or saying, oh, I fell and the camera cracked because they punched me or whatever, and really they just broke it themselves afterwards. And when you have a recording yourself, although we've seen many times where it didn't save the person because of some sort of corruption, but if you have the recording, you can use that and turn that into your personal attorney who does criminal justice, whereas when they have the recording, it gets filtered through their system and their justice system for protecting each other within their little, should I say, mafia, technically, their police mafia.
So for those of us who want to take Amy's amazing advice and actually
Police to
everybody
police,
here
yeah.
would recommend, it's a good idea anytime you do have an interaction with the police, it's a good idea to pull out your phone, as we all have smartphones these days, most of us, and just press record. And you, like you said, inform the cops. Let them know. Just so you know, officer.
I also think if you have a felony, avoid the
accountability
cops.
on recording. Real quick, for those of us who want to do that, there's an application, right? Because we've seen some cases where the police have seized the camera from the people, and then they end up getting it back, and their footage is deleted. So there's an application. There's a few apps now that you can use where they are automatically live streamed, and they also are automatically backed up.
And it's saved somewhere for
as the
later.
video is recording, it's saved to your account in the cloud, which you can then go on and access anywhere from the web. So the application that I recommend is called Bamboozer.
That's what I use.
B-A-M-B-U-S-E-R, Bamboozer.
Alex, also,
It's free and it streams live, and I swipe, click the icon, press record, and I'm going.
there's a lot of different ways to go about this, but another way, I have one of these as well. A little camera records at 720p. It's like this tall, maybe this, and you can just clip it anywhere, and you just push a button, and it starts recording. And I have like a 4 gig memory.
Looks like a pen or something.
Yeah, I have a 4. It is.
So if you want to go out and buy and be a super spy like Omar,
You have to go to the spy shop.
download a free application on your phone.
If they grab your phone and you can't get to your phone,
Omar, am I being recorded right now? This is Florida law. I need to know. Am I being recorded?
I'm just a different stroke.
No, definitely, that's good. You want to go the extra mile, go the extra mile.
Get that button cam, man.
This is a joke.
It's like it costs like $12.
Chris, did you have a question?
But she ended up saying what I was going to say anyway, that when they have the recording, they have control of it.
Right.
One other thing I just want to add, they're going to end up saying, because we talked about those wiretap laws earlier, police are going to try to bring that up, and they're going to say you're not allowed to record without my consent. But you have to constantly remind them the courts have told them, no, you're wrong, because it is a public area that you are allowed to record them because it is out in the open. So it only applies to private rights, not open area. Like anything that's out in the open, you can record them. It's only where there's an expected case of privacy that changes.
Again, see, and I'll respond
You
to
can
that.
have cameras on your own property as well.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is to respond to that, they actually talked about that at the meeting. They said that a group of people showed up to the BSO jail. See, why you should have came with you. And they said that they said, hey, we were tested when the ruling came out or whatever. That you can record the police, and they absolutely have, like what you're saying, they absolutely have to know that, but they're not trained to know that. And he says we failed the testers, and he didn't go into details of what happened, but I guess there was some roughing up of the people who were recording in front of the prison. So it happened again. And then when it happened again, Ron Gutherberger said he came out and he saw it, and he immediately called like a whole bunch of people. Like he went down the list of all these people that he called and just let them know, hey, these guys are out there. He didn't want to say what organization it was, but I think I have an idea who it was.
I think so too.
Yeah, and he was like, he said, hey, these guys are out there, they're recording, they're allowed to be there. Leave them alone and let them, and they'll just go away. He said, leave them alone and they'll just go away eventually. So he said the second time we got tested, we passed. The first time we got tested, we harassed the people who were recording because they didn't know that, or they're just idiots, that you can't film the police. And that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
They're like, they're filming the locations. They're gonna do a jailbreak. That's what they thought it was.
He also briefly mentioned that they get some of their money from forfeit asset forfeitures, and then he said, but I don't want to talk about that. So I think that would be great for another meeting.
Yeah, we should have a meeting just to forfeiture.
I was hiding, I was camera.
So, I don't know if anybody else has any questions. Okay, Alex has a question. Go ahead.
For $50, you can get an awesome thing that's better than these. I'm not going to say what I wanted to say, police, the word for them, but better than those little cams that they're going to wear. And they can record up to 24 hours in 720 and store 16 to 32 gigabytes, depending upon which option you want to buy. And they it's marginal quality, but marginal to good, depending upon how many gigs you use. And they're great. You just wear them, and they're button cams, and they fit in a button.
Omar was just talking about that.
The best things in the world.
Omar, do you know if in Florida you have to inform the cop that they're being recorded, if it's like a little chip? Because some states have that law. If you, in the recording, they don't hear your voice say you're being recorded.
That's a good question, and me personally, I just don't give a crap because I'm actually having a bad habit. I've been leaving it home. I need to keep it with me, just keep it in my car, and just remember.
Now you got to get the side
have something to say about that, sir?
Actually, technically, you don't have to ask permission or let them know because it's called free press. Because citizen journalist is equal to a higher journalist.
Yeah, I don't know if
Article 1, Section 4 of the Florida Constitution.
notify them. When you're on a phone call with somebody,
Order in the court.
then you need both parties' consent. But when you're in public with a video camera, or it could be secret, I've never heard of having to have somebody's consent.
The very fact that you don't need to get consent from the officer, like the fact that you're allowed to report police, period, should just automatically assume that you don't need to get consent from the officer to do so.
And I don't want to. And I don't want to tell
It's
the
weird
cop
because
report
I've
it.
read
I
it
don't
a
want
few
to tell
times
them.
that that you have to, but
Plus, if they're a public agent, they shouldn't care about being recorded because they should be being lawful anyways.
Yeah, I don't want
Yeah, their
to.
dash cam
Yeah.
should be getting everything.
Yeah.
Something I found out one time, though, that has some bearing on stuff like this. You know, if you're on a cell phone, no warrant is required to listen to your call if it can catch your call on a scanner. There's no expectation of privacy from a cell phone.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
You're right. Because I remembered, I could add that to it, because I recall when I had a scanner, certain frequencies you can pick up telephone conversations and two-way radios. That is a fact. So when you speak on a cell phone, don't get too crazy or digressive.
I knew you could do it with the cordless phones, the home cordless.
Yeah.
Tinfoil hat people have been right all along.
Yeah.
If you have a cell phone, they're listening.
Red phone.
All right, thank you.
Wait, Mark, real quick. So last thing, I know obviously we want to thank you so much, Mark, for being our guest speaker tonight and for updating us on all these issues. Just if there's one thing that we want to just kind of take away from this, obviously most of us, I think most of us think that the pros outweigh the cons of the accountability aspect of hopefully the officers are thinking twice about the way that they're behaving, and hopefully it's not abused. But the gentleman had such a great idea as far as some sort of third party or some quasi-government, non-profit, something, citizens observer board, like you brought up. That so as a community, as Broward says that it's going to happen by November, right? They're going to duke it out with the unions and figure it out by November. What can we do between now and then, or however long it takes, in order to kind of, whether it's going to happen, if we think it's a good idea, to push for it, but with those protections, to team up with an organization like the ACLU to take their advice and just to kind of rally around who is the influencer that we basically need to petition as the creator of Broward Cop Watch, who has 2,000 followers, and Florida Cop Watch with 70,000 followers. We can rally a lot of people to basically perhaps petition an influencer in the union or somebody that can help influence the policies.
I don't think the union is the place to contact. And by November, it's still a pilot program. So they're not going to have everything in place. But now's the time to get started. And what all three of the panelists said at our meeting was to start emailing and calling your city commissioners, your county commissioners, your police, your city police department, county, and then ask not only to be notified of any public input, but to be able to participate in it too. And I think that's where we would start getting in, where we can get some citizen review in place.
Okay, so this whole hidden agenda for the cameras for the police, is this to cut down on their lawsuits a little bit because they're getting hammered, which they deserve to be hammered worse than they are because they're all a bunch of...
Well, perhaps, but I mean, Chris
Chosen one.
did him a huge favor by not letting anybody have access to the video. I mean, they still could throw it away and nobody would know the difference. If
Oh,
they
really?
did
It's a
something
moot
wrong.
point that they wear cameras that they can throw away?
Right, it's mute.
Yeah, well...
And that's what the ACLU's issue is with what they passed.
Do you think it would discourage people from making their recordings, assuming that the cops are wearing theirs, and maybe saying, okay, I don't want to deal with it, they've got a body cam on, I don't really need to record this myself.
I think it won't take long before people realize that they're still corrupt with cameras as they were without them, and you should still
There might be
record.
a lot of gun laws involved.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Well, it's a nice little roundtable discussion with Mark Eckert from the ACLU of Broward County, and we're just going to find out what else is going to be happening here. So it's pretty good.
So since we're talking about cops, obviously the topic, please go to FloridaCopWatch.org, or you can also go to Florida Cop Watch via Facebook and Instagram, and it is the full Florida, right? FL.
Twitter, not Instagram.
Or Twitter.
Yes.
Okay, there's no Instagram. Okay. So yeah, that'll update you on the daily or weekly.
Still working with Thija?
Police reports.
Not really. It's been a while, but I still get involved in that
Also,
other ways, other
we have
avenues.
some tickets for a raffle. The winner will get this
think I have a way to make
Italian
it
olive oil and pasta.
effective.
Pretty valuable prize here.
Okay, well, folks, this is a little raffling. Hopefully, I will have a few discussions with some of these folks. I'm recording this, so
So we have the raffle tickets. It's one.
it was a pretty interesting little conversation here, and like I said, it's a very, very lively
And in
input.
addition to that amazing prize, we also have your choice of a box of Reason magazines.
Wow.
Up to 20
All right.
Reason magazines of your choice.
Well, I'm going to sign this off right now. I'll probably leave this as is, but feel free to download this on Facebook. Darn it, I goofed up again. Thanks for everyone for listening. Please feel free to download and share this throughout your social media network. And if you have any comments, recommendations, and more information, love letters, hate letters,
I had no idea.
etc., along all through the decorum, you can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker.com, and iHeartRadio. This is Craig from Loki Look the Third Podcast, or LO3, and today's date.
June 23rd, Broward County, decriminalization of marijuana. The Broward Commissioners meeting. It came up
It's not going to happen if none of us show up.
You gotta be there, 2 o'clock Tuesday. 2 o'clock Tuesday. I'm gonna try.
This Tuesday? Like in 4 days? 5 days?
Yeah, I'm gonna try. If I can get my ass together and get a speech going, I'm gonna try to speak. But
Sorry about that, folks.
we need to dig up, because I just found out about it like yesterday. I'm like, I want to talk about that. So if we can show up, let's do it. Omar.
Right. So, that's fine, but you...
Yeah, some interesting news there, folks. Here you can make it to the Brock Commission's meeting, 2 p.m., June 23rd of this year.
That's what I'm trying to fit. It looks like 2 o'clock is the public meeting.
Well, we'll find out for sure. I'll try to post it on my Facebook, on my Spreaker page, okay? So, this is LO3's podcast, and my name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful Swampy Mangoes of South Florida. Once again, I'll do it one more time. Any questions, information, comments, criticism, love letters, hate letters, as long as it's through decorum, you can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, and send your comments to iHeartRadio. Or you can email me at LokiLuck3@gmail.com. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demonic resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits with you. May your guardian spirits be with you. Good night.